if you study the economy, one of the things that you will undoubtedly come to understand is that oil is one of those things you have to watch, because it is shocking how much oil is a part of everything, not only from transportation, but to plastics and many, many other things. I just read this morning that Goldman Sachs had the guts to lower their call on end of year oil from 95 to 87. Quite the drop, Goldman, given that it's trading sub 70. We're going to talk about this with Taylor because we've had a lot going on in the oil markets. We had OPEC come out with a cut. We had Saudi come out with another voluntary cut. I do have my understanding of the oil market is Saudi's break even is right around $80. Don't know if that's true or not. But oil, what's going on? Or oil, Taylor, what is going on with the oil markets? Because it is it's wild to watch.
It really is. I mean, oil has been in essentially free fall over the last year. So it peaked out about this time last year at about $120, $125 a barrel. Right now it trades at $67 a barrel. So you're literally pretty much seeing it get shaved in half. And some of that was, it was overvalued in the front end. People over anticipated what was going to happen with the Ukraine-Russia war and what that was going to do. So that shocked prices higher in the short term. But the other part of oil is, like any commodity, it's just a supply demand curve game. And where that supply and demand come in line, that is the price at that given time. And so to your point, I think people have to understand how OPEC works. And in 2 seconds, OPEC is a group of the largest oil producers in the world. It is a legal cartel, and it is them coming together and saying, okay, we think oil prices are too high right now. If they're too high, what they'll do is they'll tick up their oil production, try to keep the prices high, but they want to profit on high oil prices. Sure. The problem is on the other side, because everyone is very willing to increase production to make more money. They're like, cool, we'll do that.
Give me some.
The problem is on the other side, right? When the global economy starts to slow down a little bit and people say, hey, there just isn't as much outstanding demand for oil, you start to see oil prices come down. And so with that, OPEC takes a look around the table and says, hey guys, like, I hate to do this, but we have to stop producing as much oil as we can to try to prop up prices. So earlier this year, OPEC came to market and said, hey, we all are going to take a hit on this, and we're all going to cut production to try to buoy prices and keep them higher. And they did. They shocked higher in a very short term. And then guess what they did? The gap back downwards. And so last week, what was interesting, I guess it wasn't this past weekend, but the weekend before, was the Saudis specifically, which are now the second largest oil producer in the world to the US. The Saudis came to market and said, we, not OPEC, we are going to take off $1 million barrels of oil a day in July. And so it's interesting because you start to dig around, and I did a little bit more research on OPEC when I saw this. And so what they make it out to seem is like OPEC is really like an old boys, like mahogany wood around the outside. They're all drinking cocktails. Everyone's super happy because everyone's loaded and they're all making money. But there's starting to be like this little finger pointing game that's going on. And so UAE, United Arab Emirates, starting to point a finger at Russia, which is a big player in OPEC. And they say, Russia, we can see what you're doing. Yeah. We believe with a relatively high level of certainty that you are backdooring OPEC, not reporting what you're producing, and you're shipping it directly to China and India. That is not allowed to happen.
Shocking.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And let's go back to the BRICS. Everybody thinks the BRICS is going to be this thing that like takes out the US dollar when you have these shady, government leaders. Are you kidding me? How long is it going to take for that relationship to fracture? I mean, geez.
As soon as they can't get along with one little thing. Yeah, you're 100% correct there. But I guess the point is like, I think oil and the demand for oil is coming down. And that is really a scary, an ominous sign for the overall economic backdrop of the world.
That's exactly where I wanted to go. Is oil coming down by the average person is like, that's a good thing. My gas is cheaper.
Right.
But oil I consider oil a leading indicator, right, to what might be out there 6 months from now. And oil going from 120 to sub 70 after taking off millions of barrels, not a good thing. I would argue that oil under $70 is screaming recession, screaming.
No doubt. And to your point, the interesting thing about it is it's not a different commodity. So a different commodity being lumber, copper, whatever it is. Like That's not cartel driven. So that's not a supply demand
Yeah.
game. That is supply demand driven based on like everything else is. If the demand is there, they'll supply more. But
Mhm.
oil is a fixed market, and they're trying to fix prices higher, and they can't
Yeah.
keep them up. And that's a
No.
scarier sign than it is when you look at lumber and see it falling down, because no one's sitting there trying to, or at least, not overtly like OPEC.
Right.
They're sitting there
There's
trying to
probably some
control.
backroom stuff going on, but it's not
No
a
doubt.
defined cartel, right?
No
Exactly.
doubt,
Exactly.
but it's not at all corners of the world meet together publicly and say, okay, we're going to cut production down.
And then issue a press release declaring, yeah.
Yeah,
There's no press
exactly.
release.
I don't know why we allow that to happen as a world. And, that is the only
Yeah.
cartel globally that's allowed to sit
Yeah.
there.
Well, I'm sure it started in the 70s and somebody saw a good reason for it. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, when I look at oil, and again, this is with the US having to fill the SPR,
Correct.
right? So there's
Correct.
some outside demand coming. It
Correct.
just screams recession again, because you're going to have this millions of barrels being bought to fill the SPR eventually, if not already happening.
And there was a
Wow.
narrative that once the debt ceiling got pacified, which obviously it just did, that oil would catch a bid, because now the US has dollars out there to go out and buy, because they
Yeah.
weren't buying.
No, because
the
it was one
oil.
of their special whatever
Right.
circumstances that like, I'm not going to buy oil because I've got to conserve cash. Yeah.
Correct. But oil's down 3% today. So
Yeah,
like
there you
it is
go.
this thing that's like this the whole way, like levels out. And then you got a little pop when OPEC cut, and then down on the
Yeah,
other side.
it's I think it's pretty clear that oil is screaming recession. It's going to be fun to watch. Taylor, I know you put out a lot of great stuff. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, thanks so much. Follow us at Life Goal Investments. We're on both Instagram and on TikTok.
Awesome, buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Michael. Thank you.